This guy nearly died from a drug overdose and became sterile at 20, all in a desperate attempt to look like a giga chad. Now he's selling courses on how to become an alpha cripple just like him. And this prancing clown over here is showing off secret tips that supposedly turned him into prime Johnny Depp. This is Looksmaxxing. Thousands of men are falling for absolute bullshit and flushing their money down the toilet to turn themselves into plastic freaks. And right now I'm going to show you why this industry is the worst thing that's happened to male society in the last decades. We're going to break down the core beliefs and main methods pushed by the influencers of the cesspool community. If you've ever believed for a second that being 6 feet tall and having jawline like a shovel will solve your problems with women, buckle up. Because the level of bullshit and sheer insanity we're about to cover is thicker than Sweetie Fox's thighs. And remember, they are definitely not gay.
If you're tired of being invisible to women, tired of getting rejected,
and tired of watching other guys who won the genetic lottery take what's yours,
then pay attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the unofficial king of the entire Looksmaxxing community, Braden Eric Peters, aka Clavicular. Now, to be fair, his opinion does deserve some consideration because it's not entirely baseless. We all have real-life evidence that attractive people have an easier time getting ahead in life or getting away with stuff. The most famous case is Jeremy Meeks, how a former Crips gang member, fresh out of prison, became a model, actor, and ended up as the daughter of a British billionaire.
Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. You have been lied to. They told you
just be confident, just be yourself, looks don't matter.
But you and I both know that's complete bullshit.
That's just a classic case of correlation versus causation. Because if looks were everything, then explain these recent scandal that broke during the World Cup. According to some sources, Spanish model Ines Garcia had been dating her boyfriend for 5 years. But the moment Spanish winger Lamine Yamal slid into her DMs, and BAM! 2 weeks of texting, and she decided to torch 5 years of relationship for a globally famous soccer player.
Who, by the way, has a track record of not sticking around in relationships for long.
Hit like if you're also curious how many months this love story will last. And let's be honest, Lamine Yamal isn't exactly a 10 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, he's not some circus freak, he looks decent. But we're talking about Looksmaxxing here. By the standards of narcissistic bitter incels, his jaw isn't at a 90-degree angle, he's not 6 feet tall, and the only muscle he's got is his abs. I'm absolutely certain that if he were working construction in Madrid or selling churros from a food cart, she wouldn't even remember his face. He would just be an NPC to her. You see, she didn't leave her boyfriend because Yamal mugged her ex, she left him because Yamal is a famous superstar. And if the Yamal example doesn't convince you, here's another one. The internet is full of photos that have left Westerners baffled for years. I'm talking about girls with model-like looks from Slavic or Balkan countries dating absolute thugs, aka gopniks. You know the type, guys from the neighborhood in tracksuits, crooked teeth and ugly haircuts. In the manosphere, these guys are usually called sub 5, meaning below 5 out of 10 in looks. But why? Because status and energy unexpectedly beat appearance. This gopnik may not look like Jordan Barrett, but he has social weight and authority in his circle. He solves problems, and girls feel protected with him. He has charisma bordering on arrogance, and he doesn't ask his reflection for permission. He radiates confidence, not attempts to appear confident through plastic surgery. So yeah, charisma and confidence don't matter. Right, if you're planning to get laid with a blown-up doll.
You see it every day. Attractive men get treated differently. They get the girls, they get the respect, and they get the opportunities handed to them. While you get nothing. Here's what keeps you up at night. You know your life would be completely different if you just looked better. You wouldn't have to deal with rejection after rejection. You wouldn't have to watch women ignore you while they throw themselves at some guy who happens to have a better jawline.
If his theory that looks determine everything actually worked, the world would look very different. Have you ever heard the story of Elliot Roger from California? This guy was a trust fund kid from a wealthy, well-known family. He had everything these Looksmaxxers spent years trying to achieve. Tall, lean, groomed, with a pretty boy face, expensive clothes and jewelry, a brand new BMW. And how did this giga chat, who by Looksmaxxers' logic should have girls leaning up and men turning gay, end up? He couldn't find a girlfriend. They kept blowing him off. So he recorded a video manifesto, whining about how he was the perfect gentleman, but girls preferred degenerate thugs over him. Then this bastard popped a bunch of happy pills, grabbed a gun and unalived 6 persons and wounded 14 others. And all this chaos happened just because nobody would sleep with him. Then this guru wannabe tries to sell his garbage courses, where he'll teach you the most feng shui Looksmaxxing methods curated over years of practice. For the full story of where those years of practice led him, I've got a separate video on the channel. But the short story version: by age 20, this beauty guru managed to become infertile, destroy his liver, almost died from an overdose on stream, ruin his face with plastic surgery, and rack up multiple criminal charges. The last one, by the way, is for sexual assault. What exactly can you learn from an expert with that kind of resume is an open question. And to boost sales, he actively uses fear-mongering. Your window is closing, every day you get older, invisible to pussies, and blah blah blah. But instead of his nonsense leading to concussion and sepsis, I can offer you something better. Comrades, I've got a Patreon. If you enjoy what I create, riding through the internet dumpster to find some degenerate and break him down bone by bone, you can support me. A whole $1 a month. Yes, I'm serious. $1. For you, that's the price of a cup of coffee. For me, it's a tangible marker that I'm not just talking to myself into a voice recorder in an empty room. Hunting for cringe content, figuring out how to present it, finding clips, editing. Dragging all of these single-handedly takes the time of a full-time job, just with less sane coworkers. If you want to say thank you in a way I can actually hear, $1 a month on Patreon is the best way. Link in the description. And now, let's get back to our freak show, because it's time to talk about the actual practices famous looksmaxing influencers propose to become a Greek god. Their methods can be roughly divided into two aggregate states of shit and piss: softmaxing and hardmaxxing, which, as you might guess, differ in the level of insanity. Both categories have tons of methods. But since the video's runtime isn't unlimited, we'll focus on the most mainstream and cringe-worthy ones. First up, tips for hunter eyes. What are they? Almond-shaped or almost rectangular eyes with a positive cantle tilt. This shape is supposedly the most aggressive, dangerous and predator-like. One glare and everyone around is wetting themselves. Guys from fear, girls from being horny. And to achieve that look, looksmaxers recommend these. Alright, let's dive into some biology. I promise it won't be boring. A positive canthal tilt depends on the structure of the skull, the depth of the eye sockets and the attachment of the canthal tendon to the bone. So here's the question. How the hell is massaging skin, facial muscles and pulling at the corners of your eyes going to affect the bone structure of your skull? Hello! Especially when the skeleton is already fully formed. Massage only affects soft tissue, it's powerless to change bone structure. You won't get hunter eyes, you'll get idiot eyes from rubbing your face into a bruise. And this pseudo-scientific nonsense, filmed on an iPhone 8 front camera in one take, gets tens or hundreds of thousands views. What the actual f*** am I doing wrong with my life? I honestly don't know what's dumber, doing this crap every day expecting results in 3 weeks, or the fact that I have to explain on a serious note that is obvious quackery. Just f***. Next in the cringe kaleidoscope, acne treatments. Honestly, it's hard to single out one specific looksmaxing method here, because there are so many. Check out this guy.
Huh? Why are you gay?
His entire account is basically about acne. Here's my take. Acne isn't simple as it looks. There is no one-size-fits-all cure, because it can be caused by different factors. Some people just need to quit smoking, others need serious prescription medications, not f***ing hand soap that will dry out already irritated skin with open sores. To prove this is also a mess, look at the guy I just mentioned, he's doing gua sha massage during active acne. In fact, gua sha massage is strictly forbidden during active acne breakouts. The mechanical friction of the scraper damages pimples, spreads bacteria across the face and makes inflammation worse. And then, judging by the video upload dates, he's been treating his not so severe acne for a year and a half. Notice, I'm not throwing around complex medical knowledge. I'm talking about obvious stuff, the basics you usually find on the back of the package. Dude, please stop doing that. If you want to smirk smugly with a predatory gaze like an anime girl in a TikTok edit and be convincing, you should look like your older colleagues in the industry, and not like this. Or actually... oh fuck. This is complicated. And to round off the softmaxing section, let's talk about the one that's become a full-blown meme. Mewing. The idea is to constantly hold your tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth. Experts claim this will define your jawline and make it as sharp as a shovel. The importance of this exercise is justified by the claim that facial attractiveness depends more than 50% on the jawline. The more your jawline looks like this, and rather than that, the more female attention you'll get. The catch? The skull and facial bones actively develop only until puberty ends. For men, that's roughly 16 to 18, which makes pressing your tongue against your palate at age 20 about as useful as putting butter on a 3rd-degree burn. You might affect muscle tone, but you won't change bone growth. And here's the kicker, get ready. The founding father of this heresy, John Mew and his son, were kicked out of the British Orthodontic Society for promoting this anti-scientific nonsense. Because it turns out it's not just useless, it's actually harmful. Excessive tongue pressure with a misaligned bite can damage teeth and can cause jaw joint pain for alternative medicine enthusiasts. I also took a deep dive into the TikTok accounts of influencers pushing this crap as the secret to their beauty and a cure for a lack of female attention. And what did I find? They were cute pretty boys long before mewing even became a thing. This proves that the influencers claiming you can mark all the subhumans around you owe their looks to a genetic lottery, not a disciplined routine, which basically throws the entire Looksmaxxing movement into question. As they say, think about it. At this point, we cross any line of sanity, because now we're talking about hardmaxxing. Everything before this will look like child's play. We are entering the territory of unhinged degenerates, whose mental cockroaches have legally established permanent residency, evicting any grey matter. Because when mewing doesn't work, the Looksmaxxer's brain switches to mark them all at any cost mode. This is the most radical methodology for improving appearance through surgical and medical intervention. Typically, hardmaxxing involves altering bone structure, bone smashing, hormonal injections that turn your balls into raisins, and plastic surgery that make you look like a wax figure from a horror museum. Unfortunately, I can't show you some freak from the deep internet advocating for these practices this time. I'd love to mock and roast him. YouTube would get cranky and ban me for that. So to show you where the bottom is, meet Leona Tremba from Germany. He's 25 years old. He was 5 feet 7 inches and had been in a deep depression because of it, feeling inadequate. So he fixed the problem. 2 leg-lengthening surgeries 2 years apart, costing a whopping $114,000. They broke his bones, inserted magnetic rods, he spent months in a wheelchair, sat 3 to 4 hours a night due to excruciating pain. Now he's 6 feet 5 inches. He gained 9.4 inches in height, but effectively remained the same guy, just with longer legs. And here's what that tells you. This guy was willing to risk infections and disability, turning his whole life into a clinical trial, just to add 9.4 inches. You think this is about height? No, this is about self-loathing and a band-aid on a self-esteem. Except a band-aid on self-esteem doesn't work if the wound is where normal people keep their brain. Funny thing is, somewhere in the same world as him live Jason Statham, Tom Hardy, Conor McGregor, Sylvester Stallone, and many others. None of them care that they don't reach the magic 6 feet. They are all the gold standard of masculinity recognized by millions. McGregor alone has enough charisma for 10 guys who are 7 feet tall. Their complexes didn't break them because they were busy building their lives. They didn't stretch their bones, they turned their lives around and became who they are. Looksmaxxing is a pacifier for insecure guys who are too lazy to work on their personality. It's not about beauty or dominance. It's about how a person stops being sane when their complexes outgrow them. It's the pretty wrapping effect. Imagine you bought a car with a rotten engine, paint the wheels gold, and believe it will drive faster. That's Looksmaxxing. Offloading responsibility onto your shoulder width or eye shape for the fact you can't hold a conversation longer than 30 seconds, that's pure self-deception to avoid facing hard truth. And let's not forget the industry. The conveyor belt producing beautiful dolls with empty eye sockets makes millions of the gullible. Marketers and masculinity gurus figured out that it's easier to sell a scared insecure man a hope and a routine than to teach him how to be a human being. While some people are busy self-harming, the world will keep loving Sylvester Stallone. Because where many people have a void in their heads, he has character. Reminder, my Patreon link is in the description. And happy Friday everyone!